Hey everybody, welcome to Live Coding with Jesse. I'm Jesse, and today we're going to make a React component from start to finish. We're going to pull in data from um, a MySQL database using GraphQL and Apollo, and then we're going to use that data to put into the components and render multiple components. So this is probably going to be a short stream. So this is something that I've done many times. I don't anticipate making a lot of mistakes, but if you've watched the stream before, you know I do often make mistakes, so it could happen. Um, so before we get started, just want to bring you up to date on how how I and Michael Creel fixed an issue that we had, I believe, on the last stream. So, and to tell you the truth, I'm not 100% sure that. I don't know that we had the issue on the last stream or not, now that I think about it. But anyway, we we were trying to get the faculty list pages to work, and we had made a new component and we had made a new query, but it just I found that when I was trying to get categories that had more than one word, they were hyphenated, it wouldn't work. It turns out I was searching for the name, which would be the title in WordPress, instead of the slug. And the name, of course, when it has more than one word, has commas sometimes and spaces and all sorts of things. So that's what my problem was, and I worked on it for a long time on my own, couldn't figure it out. I made a GitHub issue for it, and Michael saw it and realized what was going on and submitted a pull request. That pretty much sorted everything out. I still needed to make a few adjustments in my router because I had actually made another mistake in the routing function that I didn't even realize because it was kind of buried under this other mistake. So I had to adjust that, and I adjusted some things in the component as well to deal with some errors that came up after that. So there were just layers upon layers of my mistakes that I had to get through. So that's all sorted out now. So those pages do work. I just don't have all the routes in yet. So I did open up an issue for adding the routes. If anyone would like to do that, it's actually pretty boring work. So I'm going to do it at some point. I just made the issue, one, to remind me to do it, and then two, if anybody really wanted to get a pull request for doing some like tedious work, then feel free to take that one. Okay, I think that's all my updates. I don't know. I for some reason I think there's something else I wanted to share, but I can't remember it now. So I guess we'll just get started. Let me make sure the stream... Alright, stream health looks good. Let me know if anything's going on. So I am streaming from home today, so you know sometimes the health's not that good, but I think it'll work out. So I'm going to start my timer on my other screen. So Pomodoro session, we're going to try to do a 25-minute session of coding, and then I'll take a break and do some questions. We may not need 2 full sessions today. Let's see. Let me switch my screen. Oops, there we are. Okay, so you probably can't see much because it's really small. I'll make it a bit bigger for you, and what you see on the screen was stuff I was working on previously. So we're gonna switch out of there. So I mean, basically, I was working on routes, cleaning up data on the WordPress side of things. So nothing super interesting. I did go through the analytics from the current site to figure out what pages are viewed most, and so I'm going to focus my efforts on those pages before launch. I'm going to get the data for all the pages, but in terms of how the pages look and the pages that get the most testing, I'm going to stick with maybe the top 20 pages in terms of views. Really, the top 2 pages get all the views, and then every page after that gets like 1% or less of all the views. So it's not it's kind of hard to say like, hey, here's the top 20 pages, because the difference in views between like number 20 and number like 100 are like 0.1%. So it's not really a huge difference. But let me show you what pages we're going to be working on, what component we're going to make first, so you get the visual. Then we'll go to the code. Hey everyone, I see a lot of you saying hi now in the chat. So hey, Michael's here. Michael, thank you. I don't know if you caught the beginning where I explained how you saved me from my mistake there with our GraphQL queries, but I really appreciate that, so thank you. So let's go to localhost first, and actually let's go to that fine arts faculty, because that's the one that was giving me the most trouble, or at least that was where I first realized that I did something wrong, because I couldn't get that data. So I hope it works. Oh, it's taking long because of the stream. I was really worried for a second, but okay, here we are. So here's our page for Fine Arts Faculty, and I'm going to go to that same page on the current main website just to give you an idea of what people see now, because their expectations, if they've seen one of these pages before, are going to be based on what they're seeing now. So I'm not going to recreate it pixel for pixel, but we should at least try to have the same basic data. So we're going to go to franciscan.edu/fine arts and faculty. So we'll go there, and you can go to that site as well if you'd like. We also have a test. You know what? I haven't updated the test site. I'm not going to try to update it now because it'll take forever while I'm streaming, but I'll be sure to try and update that that demo site. I believe it's I forget the URL. I'll let you know the URL when I do the next stream, so y'all can check out the site as well. But no sense right now, because all of this stuff that we've done in the past week isn't available anyway. All right, so here's how it looks. So there's this huge, I guess you could say, kind of hero section that are on these pages, which we're not going to try to replicate that right now. These pages, to be honest with you, are rarely visited in terms of the total site visits, so they're not a priority right now. And we'd like to have input from each of the departments before we go in and start redoing things. But basically what they have now is an image, the name, and then title, and a link. So right now, getting the image is going to be, if we're going to get the image now based on the data that we have, we're going to have to maybe use a regular expression or something to search out the URL to the image, because we don't have that kind of nicely available in its own field. So we can grab that, but that's going to be, if we have time, let's grab that, because it'll be a little bit more difficult. What we really need is the name, which we already have. We just need to make it look nice, and we need this this link, which we can get easily. The title is also going to be a little bit different, but if we can look in the markup and see that, like, hey, all the titles are, let's say, in a certain type of tag, or they all have a certain class, we may be able to just grab these as well. Maybe with a regular expression, we'll see. So we may be able to display these properly with all the data we want without having to go back and manually edit the data that we currently have. So if you haven't followed along for a lot of the project, we're stuck with a lot of data and markup as is from migrating the data from a previous content management system. So that's why I'm trying to do these little workarounds to be able to work with data that's not in an ideal format. At some point, I'd love to be able to change the data, but we don't have enough time before the site is going to launch on June 4th. Okay, so I'm thinking in terms of design, there's two options that I think we can take. One is to do cards and have kind of a masonry layout with the cards for the professors. The other layout would be just to keep kind of like we have here, this list format, and to keep some sort of list format. So let me know in the live chat what you think, just to give you an idea of what the card could look like. Let's go to the main page in a new tab here, and when that does load, you'll be able to see, potentially what it could look like. While that's loading, I do want to remind everyone, in case, or if you haven't heard yet, a few of the viewers that I believe are here in the live chat today, at least I saw Nikki. So Nikki and Harshit and JavaScripter, who's occasionally in the live chat, and I all created a site for people to be able to share their GitHub repositories and find cool JavaScript repositories that are not really well known, but are kind of worth knowing. And that site is called javascript.af. So, whoops, no. I'll paste that in the live chat right now. So if you'd like to check that out, please feel free, check it out. So, oops, I didn't get the link. It's just, it's not a clickable link, but if you just copy and paste javascript.af in the browser, you'll get in and see this. After you log in with your GitHub profile, we're not trying to take your data, but to use the functionality and actually add repos, you do have to be logged in. So we may make it so that you don't have to be logged in. I opened an issue for that. So you'd only have to be logged in for certain things, but you could still see things without being logged in. For now, you do need to log in at first, though. But basically, you can see, we have some repos. If you were to click, let's just click on the latest one that was added. You can see the README and some statistics. So you'll have the ability later on in beta, when we add more features, to upvote repositories. So there'll be different searching options. So it should be, I'm hoping what it'll be is an easier way to search through GitHub repos, and like I said, just a way to find really cool stuff out there that maybe is kind of just getting lost underneath all of the bigger repositories that get most of the attention. So please check it out and let me know your opinion. Okay, so this is an example of how a profile could look. Actually, looking at this now, it reminds me that I believe this image is too big. I need to make some restrictions on images for the cards. It just is, it's taking up a huge portion of the screen there. But anyway, it would be something like the faculty profile card, name, title, and then a link. So our option is to do something like this, or to do something that would be more of a list style, more horizontally oriented. So as I said, let me know in the live chat if you have a preference. I guess I'm going to make a decision on this here in about 30 seconds. I will give you all a bit of a time for the delay to go through to see if you have any opinion on that. I'm just scanning through the chat to see if anyone has an opinion. Looks like not yet. So in about 15 more minutes, I'm going to answer questions in the chat. So if you're asking questions, just please be patient with me. Okay, cool. So Sasha says card style, Michael card style. Sasha, forgive me if I'm wrong about this, but I don't remember seeing you in the chat before. So welcome. If I have seen you and I just don't remember, apologies for that. But anyway, welcome to the chat, and thank you for letting me know which style you prefer. It looks like the card. All right, great. So everybody likes the card. This is actually going to make our job easier because we can probably borrow a lot of the markup from the current card component. So let's see where we have that. So we're going to go into our code here. All this code is available and it's open source. The repository link is in the description to this video. Feel free to check out that code, use it for whatever. New addition to the code just today was a code of conduct. So far nobody has done anything remotely in violation of the code of conduct, but if you're going to say something or do something that you're not sure whether or not you should do, just check out the code of conduct beforehand. But it's nice to have one of those. Hopefully we never have to actually enforce it. And so far everybody in this community has just been very pleasant. Certainly to me and also with each other, as far as I know. Oh, those are the pages. I need to look for components. Okay, where's our component? Profile card. So let's check out our profile card component. And we'll see. So I guess for now, let's just copy this. And I mean, honestly, we'll see. I'm going to make a new component now, but it's going to end up being pretty close to what we already have. This one needs to be a little bit more versatile, I think, because we're using it for multiple types of profiles, but I don't know if I really want to just change this one to work in our use case. Let's see, profiles, profile name. Yeah, I mean, to me, there's a balance between making a component reusable for a lot of different situations and making a component bloated with all these different options. So I don't know. I kind of think this component is maybe like on the border of that right now. So let's just go ahead and make another component. You know, at least it'll be good for educational purposes to make a new component and go from there. So let's call this faculty list item. Okay, so that's what it is right now. It's pretty specific. So, like I said, maybe this may end up changing a lot or getting combined with another component. Or we may end up taking this component and making it a little bit more general so that we can use it in other situations. Oops. I named this improperly. I meant to do a capital. So usually components are capitalized and then at the first part in the camel case. So not always, but that seems to usually be the way components are named. Let's see. Sorry, I'm running Spotify on my phone, and I went to press the skip the song key on my keyboard, and it wasn't working. I'm like, what is happening? It's because it's on my phone. So here's what we have. Let's scoot this over. We'll scoot this down a bit. Just want to give us as much room as possible. And size, material, cards, topography. Okay. It looks like, let me go through this a little bit and just we'll see what the component is. So I know I titled this creating a component. So potentially you might be expecting to do this from scratch, but to be entirely honest with you, I never make a component from scratch. And if you're trying to make a component from scratch, other than for educational purposes, then my personal opinion is that you are wasting, I don't want to say wasting, but you're taking more time to create it than you need to, right? Because it wouldn't be a waste. You'd probably learn things when you do it, but in reality, the structure of components is, there's usually a base structure that can be reused, and you can always find a component that's similar enough to what you want to do that you have a starting place. So this is actually how I do create new components. I always start with some component that I've previously made. So what this gives us is a lot that we would need for most components anyway. So we're bringing in things from React, right? We're bringing in our styles from Material UI, which is the material design framework that we're using. We're bringing in components from Material UI that we can build on, right? We're bringing in typography, which gives us automatically styles for our text, for our font. Okay, and we're bringing in a button, right? So these are basic things that we should not be recreating over and over again if we want to be able to develop things with any speed at all. So, having said that, we also bring in some styles, right? So these styles are going to be useful to us. Now, we may not need to keep them all, so we may take out some things that we don't need from this component. So if you notice, where are we at? We have this, I'm trying to see, this same component is used for multiple things, so we don't really need to say what type of profile this is, because on the page where we're going to use this on, there's not going to be multiple profile types. So we're going to be able to take this section out. We're also, let's go through it. I believe there's some other stuff we can take out, but we'll see once we get there. So this category section right here, we can take this out because we won't be using that. And we will take out the corresponding prop for that, type, which would be profile type. So that's not going to be an available prop. We're going to take it out. Where would we use it here? This profile type here. Right, so we've removed all of that. Now you notice I have this commented out. I'm going to keep this in here just to test it and see whether this gives us better dimensions for our images. If it does not, I'm going to delete it. So I'm not planning on keeping that. What we had before and by default in Material UI with cards, media that you have in cards, so mostly images at the top of the cards, were background images put in with CSS. But we ran into some issues with that when I was testing with my intern. Some things that he had noticed and brought to my attention. So we tested out using just a regular image tag instead, and that gave us better results. But I want to make sure that those are actually better results in a variety of use cases. So that's why I haven't completely gotten rid of this yet. Alright, so just a quick scan through here. I'll explain what this is doing and we'll see if we can remove anything else. We have some of the props that we're passing in, which are our profile image. So this would be the URL to the image. This is the image title for the the title attribute on our image. We have our profile name, which would be the name of the person, and then we'll have content and a profile link. So the content is going to be the quote portion. So in our case, the content is just going to be the title of the person instead of an actual quote from that person. So we may rename this to make it, more obvious, but for now, just when we're testing it, it's okay. And then we have a link with a just a basic button style. And that's it. It's going to be a pretty simple component. So let's test it out. Let me make sure I've saved it. And we need to test this out now in our faculty list. So we need to bring in this component. So we need to import it so we can use it. So I'm just going to copy and paste this other component that we brought in from the same folder. That'll be easy to change. And we've called our component faculty list item. So now we'll be able to use that. And if we go down here in our faculty list.js, this template page, we can see we're already grabbing our data from GraphQL, and we're already mapping over it. And what we're doing right now, when we did this just as a test, was just threw this into an H3. So we don't want to leave it like that. That's not really visually appealing. So now we're going to replace this with our faculty list, what do we call it again? Item. So our faculty list item, and we're going to need to put in a bunch of props, but we're not going to just put in the props by hand. In this case, we're going to put in variables, right? That as we're mapping through this, we're going to grab that data from the GraphQL, the things that we're bringing in. So let's see. We need let's check here to see what we need to pull in, and we don't need to pull all of these in. Some of these will be optional. So for now, what we're not pulling in is an image or a title. So we're just going to pull in what we have for now just to see what it looks like on the page. So we're going to pull in this for profile name. We're going to have, whoops, not that. Profile name is going to equal faculty dot node title. And then we're also going to have our profile link. And this one's going to be a little bit more tricky. So right now, our profile link is like a full URL. What we want it to be is, let me see. Did I break it? I think I did. Oh yeah, because I'm working on this page right now. So we need, sorry, wrong page. I need to find out what the URL is to go to this page. Does this link not work? Oh, I guess it only works. No, it doesn't work at all. That's weird. Oh, maybe it's just so slow. Okay, so faculty, and then that's how it works. Alright, so I just wanted to know how I had this route set up. So it's going to be So let's do it like this. So in React, when we put these brackets in, that means we can write JavaScript in here. So we're writing JavaScript, and we want to put in a template literal. So we're going to do a template literal, and it's going to be slash faculty slash, and then here's where the variable is going to come in. So we're going to put a $sign and then a curly bracket, which lets us put in a variable. So right here is a string. This is the variable, and the variable is going to be faculty node slug, which I believe I'm bringing that in. We'll find out in a second if I actually am. So our link is always going to be to a faculty page, and then that slug is going to tell us what faculty page to get to pull in, right? And we've already set all this up in previous streams. The only thing we need to be careful of is making sure in the data that we have that's in a MySQL database, making sure that all the slugs are actually correct. Which, since we're pulling the data in with the slugs, and then we're taking that same slug and using it to grab the data again, we should be fine. So even if the slug itself is in a weird format that we don't like, it still should work. So now I can get rid of this. Oops, you know what? Let's bring over this key. Let's make sure I don't already have a key on here. I don't. Okay. Actually, you know, this isn't going to look great, and I'll tell you why in a minute after we see that it's not going to look great. But we'll add some more into here to make this look nicer. So let me save that. Hopefully I did this right. And I'm still getting this. What was this? Faculty list item under quote. Oops. I believe I messed something up when I took out these styles. Yep, I did. I forgot a comma. Alright, hopefully that was it. Oh, and my timer ran out, and I didn't even realize it. So let me go. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I'm going to go to the chat and answer your questions, and then we'll come back and see if this will work, how it looks, what else we need to do. Steven says, can you talk about what GraphQL does? Just a short description. Sure, no problem. So GraphQL, well, I should say, for those of you who are familiar with REST APIs, think of GraphQL as just another way to access data that is very similar to a REST API. But imagine if you could tell the API exactly what you wanted instead of being restricted to the pre-built API routes. For those of you who have no idea what an API is at all, it's just, GraphQL is just a way for us to send a message to a server and ask for certain pieces of information. And then that information gets sent back to us. Okay, so in this case, we have our React application is asking for data using the GraphQL format, right? It's just a certain way to ask, right? It's a way to format the question so that we get the answer that we want. And then our database is connected to a WordPress installation. We have a plugin called WP GraphQL, and that plugin is able to recognize when we ask a question using GraphQL and then answer properly with the correct data. Once we get that answer, then we can display it on a page using our React components. So that is what all GraphQL is. The reason GraphQL is better than a normal REST API is because, going back to a really basic thing, in a normal API, there's only a preset list of answers that it will give and questions that you can ask. But with GraphQL, you can ask any questions that you want, and assuming that that data actually exists, you will get all the data back, right, the way you want. I guess I'll give a real world example. Like imagine if you called the grocery store to see if they had some certain items in stock. And with the REST API, there would be, you called and there's one of those automated things, and it says press 1 to find out how many apples we have. Press 2 to find out how many oranges we have, right? There was no option to automatically say, I want to find apples and oranges. You'd have to actually call back again and then press 1 for apples, hang up, call back again, press 2 for oranges. With a GraphQL API, you could just get on the phone and say, hey, I want to know how many apples and oranges there are. And then it would give you the apples and oranges right then. You wouldn't have to make 2 phone calls. Okay, that's why GraphQL is better. Hopefully that was a decent explanation. Let me know if it was confusing. Steven says, are these general JavaScript functions, libraries, etc., or based on like React only? You know what? It's a mix. So like some of the things that we do within a component are just regular JavaScript. Other things are specific to React. So to try to give you like this function here, this get initial props, is specific to Next.js, which is a way to build with React. But down here where we're doing this dot map and we're mapping over, this is just regular JavaScript. This is dot map, and then we're using an arrow function within here, okay? But then once we jump back inside of the arrow function, we're back in React land where we're using this component, okay? But then, inside here, we have template literal syntax, which is just ES6 JavaScript. So a React component is a very integrated mix of regular JavaScript stuff and then some stuff that is unique to React or unique to a particular package that you're using with React. In our case, Next.js. Oh, cool. And Sasha says that this was first time in here, so awesome. So yeah, all right. So officially now, without doubt, welcome, and thank you for letting me know which option looked better there. So let's see. Oh, John Hansen says still having errors to try to get the repo for javascript.af to work properly. All right, John, if you haven't already done this, open up an issue in the GitHub repos for those projects and let us know what errors you're getting. If you just want to copy and paste the error in there, then Harsh is probably going to be the one that's going to be able to help you the most since he did a lot of the work for this. But if I can figure out what's going on from the errors and help you, I will definitely do so. And I'd like to have it in an issue, and then that way if someone else has a similar issue later on, then they can also benefit from it as well. Okay, so my 5-minute timer went off, so I'm going to go back and check on this component, and depending on if it works or not, I may go right back to questions, or we may work on this a bit more. All right, let me... Wait a second. Why am I getting the error on that page? That was weird. All right. Okay, so we have something now. This doesn't look like it's supposed to look, and if you haven't already figured it out, I'll tell you why in a second. But what we do have is much nicer padding already. We have some indication that these are separate. We have our buttons with. Is the link properly going in there or not? I'm not seeing it, but let's see if there's actually a link in here, since I don't see it. No, I don't see a link. What did I do wrong? Let's check out our component. It's possible I omitted something important, maybe. Profile link. Just double check what's going on. That looks like it's supposed to. So there should be. Well, let me try to click it. Let's click it and see what happens. Okay, it does work. I assumed that the link tag we were using would result in an A tag in the markup. Hey, wow, that. So I know I explained that this should work, but I was still surprised that it actually worked. That the link worked, and there's a lot of information there. The format is decent. Definitely not ideal, but decent. Wonderful. All right, so we're going to go back. At least we know that the links are working. So I'm going to go back and probably, maybe the last thing I do, we'll see. Did I accidentally click this again? I think I did. We'll just stop that. All right. Um, I'll get these in more of a masonry look. So let's go to our home page where we already have a masonry layout working. Maybe what home's kind of cluttered. You know what? Let's go to our search page because that also has a masonry layout, but it's not nearly as cluttered. Okay, so is this it? Do we have a masonry layout on search or not? No, I can't even remember. It's been so long since we worked on this. Alright, so this would be a search result class. You know what? I don't think we do. Alright, so let's go to our homepage. I'm not sure if I have it up already, so I'm going to open up our little sidebar here. And go down to our pages. And index. Close that. Give us some space. Okay, so what we're going to need right off the bat is a grid container. And let's go with alright, so let's go with the container. I'm just going to copy this, and then we'll close the tags after we copy it over. But some of this, whoops, you know, I don't want all this right away. I want these two first, because these are going to go outside of here. So these will actually replace this div, and then So we just need masonry. We are going to need to import masonry. So let's do that before we forget, because this we'll get an error if we don't import it. So we'll bring in masonry, and then we also need to bring in grid, which I don't think we have yet. Yep, not yet. Masonry and grid. Okay. So now we can go, whoops, let's go to the right place here, and let's just pull in a grid that we're already using. We're also going to need to bring in these classes, because we'll get an error from that as well if we don't fix that. Oops, did I not get the whole thing? Nope, I didn't. Let's copy and paste the whole thing. So we're going to copy that and then paste in this whole grid element. So if you're not familiar with Material UI, you probably at least recognize by the name of grid what this is doing. This is going to lay things out in a certain way, certain screen width. Okay, so here's our grid, and let me save to get some formatting in here. It should format for me. So right now we have it set on extra small screens to take up the full width of the screen, which is fine, and then on small screens to take up half the screen, medium to take up half the screen, large to take up half the screen. We can try it like that and see how it looks. It might result in cards being way too big on large screens though, and so we may have to change it. So I just had my, at least based on what OBS is telling me, my stream dropped off for a second. So if it did, I apologize. Hopefully it's good now. Okay, so we have, oh, we need the styles. Let's find it. Content container. Now we may want to adjust this, and we need that grid item fix. Yeah, we may want to adjust this. These styles are particular to our home page, so they may not work well with what we're trying to do here, but we'll bring them in for now. And we actually need to create our styles here. Const styles equal theme. Let's see. So you see here, this looks like a JavaScript object with CSS in it, and that's pretty much exactly what it is. It's a way to write CSS using JavaScript and have it live right in your component. This really helps a lot with reusability, but it is a little bit weird to get used to at first. So hopefully this will work without me bringing in anything else. I think it will, but we can double check. The styles. Nope, I believe I need, we'll see if I get an error. I think I need classes is not defined. I think I do need with styles then. styles. Let's see what we have down here. Goes with root, with data, and then we also need with styles. Styles. Hopefully that'll work. It should work since we're using compose. But let's check. No. Okay, where's this at? Facilitylist.js. 41. Oops, I know why. We never brought in. Where's it at? Next page. So we did pass in. We passed in classes here. So we're not going to be able to do this in the same way, but for instance, let's see, where's my other component here? Faculty list item, so we're doing something similar. So you can see we have this inside of our render, we can do const classes. So we'll put it in here. We weren't passing any other props in like that. So this is called destructuring when we do it like that. So basically allows us to omit this dot props before each one of our props. So it really helps to save a lot of typing and a lot of space in your component if you have a lot of props like we do here. We're going to do it here as well. Although in this case, not really that much going on. But there could be, and most likely will be. So we're going to anticipate that. So we're going to say const classes and equals this props. Let's save that. That should fix our issue. And I just keep manually refreshing because the auto refresh takes forever when I'm streaming. But normally you wouldn't, like if you're going to work on this project locally, you would not need to manually refresh if your computer is at all capable. No way. Why did it not work? Alright. What did I do wrong? Alright. Let's compare our use of classes here. So, pretty much the same. Okay. Let's make sure I copy this in properly. So we have const styles equals theme, arrow, item. Okay, content container. everything looks fine there. Let's see. Let me make sure what I did bring in. Yeah, it should be fine like this. Oh, let me check the live chat and see if you all see something that I'm missing. All right, I don't see anything. All right, I'm just gonna check my imports again to make sure I was doing this. Oh, material UI styles. That's interesting. So, not sure if this will have an impact at all, but I'm definitely using a different way to import that. It it shouldn't make a difference, but I'd rather do what we're doing here because these are both. No, actually, it's not. This isn't a regular component. This is a page component. So I will try it. The only other thing I could think of is what we're doing down the bottom within Compose. Maybe is not working. For those of you joining me for the first time, uh, I do mess up in this stream quite frequently, and because this is supposed to be my normal everyday work, and I do make mistakes every day, so I don't practice this beforehand. And I think part of the value of the stream is that I make mistakes and we work through it together and try to come to a solution. And I think that's a more realistic view of what web development is than if I were to rehearse all this and do it perfectly. All right, so with data, with styles, let's see how we did it here. Okay, so we didn't list. Do it there. I wonder if, let's look at this page and see what we're doing here. I guess we don't have any styles in this page. There's got to be a page where we're both using styles in our component and we are bringing in data. So let me think, where would we be doing that? Let's check the search page. So I think that's probably where we would be. All right, so we do have styles, and maybe we're bringing in data. Now I think about it, we're not using GraphQL on this page, so we probably aren't. Yep, that's not going to work. All right. Let's check out our major page. Yes. All right. Yes, this is const styles. All right. Excellent. There we go. So this is probably the problem. I was just doing this wrong. Down here, there is something different going on up top as well. So we may need to change two things. So let's correct this, and we're gonna add in. Well, we should just be able to add this in. I believe that's what we want to be doing. Let's check it now. Yay, it works. Cool. All right, so this is more of what we were going for. You can see we have what's, it's kind of like a masonry layout. Let's try to drop down so we can see. So once we drop down to a certain place, it automatically changes. Kind of has a nice like switching effect. And cool. All right, so that works. Like I said before, I may not want on a large screen to have. Let's get rid of this for a second, if my lag will allow it. All right, it won't. But you can imagine on a larger screen, maybe too big. You know, consider once we do put an image in, you know, if that's the width of the image and it's a tall image, it's going to be huge, right? We don't really want that. So we may limit the size of the card. But so far, I mean, it's still very plain, but our links work. It looks a lot nicer than it did when we started. And I'm not going to mess around with trying to pull data out of our content right now. I'll just, maybe if I have some time, I got to take my kids to soccer practice today. So I may not have time today, but if I remember, maybe I'll make some issues. And if any of you all are interested in pulling out the proper data, you can take a shot at it as well. I think that's not bad for right now. All right, so I am going to scroll up to where I left off and answer the rest of these questions. I didn't stream yesterday because I was at the Google I/O Extension Conference in Pittsburgh, which ended up being really awesome. If anyone thinks it may be interesting for me to do like a little video recap, let me know. I'll do one. And I'll post it on my YouTube channel, which there's a link in the description for my channel. If no one's interested at all, just don't say anything, or you could say no if you want to be really direct about it, and then I won't make the video. But it was a cool experience, so I thought I would share if you're interested. Let's see. So I'm just trying to figure out where I left off at right now. Okay, found it. John Hansen says, should it be just a functional component and then have it brought into a container component? Yeah, actually, to tell you the truth, I haven't looked through a lot of the components to see if they could become functional components, and I suspect a lot of them could. I like to start out with like normal components, and then later on I can turn them. It seems to be easier, although now there's a plugin in Visual Studio Code that can switch your components back and forth. So I guess I don't have to worry about it, but it was usually easier to switch to a functional component instead of trying to switch back. So I suspect you're right about this one and about a lot of other components in there, that they could just be functional. Teo says, I want to follow along with you on these live streams. What is the schedule? How do I get into your code? So The schedule is it varies. I try to stream Monday through Friday. I usually don't get all 5 days in. Depends on when I have meetings or what's going on. Um, so probably the best thing to do would be subscribe to the Free Code Camp channel and turn on notifications on YouTube. And then if you follow me on Twitter and or Instagram, I usually post about when I'm going to stream. I'm most consistent on Twitter. Occasionally, I don't have time or forget to do it on Instagram. But then at least you'll know a little bit beforehand when I'm going to stream. Uh, so that's if you want to get into the code, the link to the GitHub repo is in the description. It's totally open source. You can see everything. And then feel free to ask questions if you need to. Okay, Johnny Carter says, I find that component packages are quite restrictive when trying to match design specs, such as Material UI. Have you come across any issues yourself? Yeah. I mean, we need to, occasionally when I come across issues like that, what I'll do is make a, I can either make a completely new component and do all the styles myself, which I find to be not a great option. It does give you the most control, but you end up recreating a lot of things that you don't need to. The other option is to create a container component around some Material UI components, and then that way you can kind of manipulate and do what you want with them. And then the other option is to actually manually go in to your node modules, copy and paste the code for a particular component from Material UI, pull it out, make it your own component, adjust it enough so that it actually works in that new component folder that's kind of at that top level, and then you can change it to be what you want. The only downside to that is Material UI is going to continue to advance and update, and your component is not. So there's a trade-off, but that gives you the maximum amount of customizability without having to recreate a lot. So I've done those things. That's how I do it. So yeah, but I found what you give up in going with the framework in terms of freedom to do what you want, it really is worth it for me because you save so much time. Sorry. You save so much time, not just in terms of building the components themselves, but in testing. You go with a well-known UI framework, there are thousands of hours of tests that have already been done by the people that build it and by the people that use it. So it's very, very difficult for one person or even a small team to replicate that amount of testing. Figuring out all the different UI bugs that happen in different browsers and devices and things. So that's why I generally am okay with the small annoyance of the inflexibility that occurs sometimes. Michael Creel says, might want to build a card template, then extend it to more specific uses. Yeah, for sure. I like I kind of mentioned before, in reality, we probably could have used that profile card template and adjusted it. But for the sake of the stream, I thought it might not be a bad idea to just copy it over, do our own thing, and simplify it rather than complicate an existing component. So I thought that might have been a slightly more, kind of slightly easier to understand for people who weren't that familiar with React. But that's definitely a candidate for refactoring. Let's see. Michael Creel says, is dangerously set inner HTML something you made? Because the name intrigues me. No, it's not what I made. The the team that made React actually made that. The reason it's titled that is because you're pulling in the raw HTML when you do that, and if the source is unknown, or like let's say you're allowing users to input things and then you're displaying them on your site, that could potentially be dangerous if you're not checking that data first to make sure they're not throwing in like script tags or weird things in there that could harm another user. So we, in this case, we control the data and where it's coming from. So it's okay to use, but you definitely want to be sure. Like, I mean, let's say you were building some sort of forum or discussion board or whatever, and you let users put in data, and then the data could be displayed to other users without any sanitization going on, then that would be really bad. So that's why it's labeled dangerously. Oh no, John Hansen said things are fuzzy, can't read a thing. Oh, okay, now it's fixed. All right. So I'm sorry about that if that happened to anyone else. My stream, for whatever reason, the stream occasionally just keeps dropping off. Like in terms of the kilobits per second, it'll just go right down to 0, and then a few seconds later it'll pop right back up and be at like 2,500. So I don't know why it's doing that. Nino says, you've been working on this project for a really, really long time. Yep. Yeah, I have. So I've been working on it for a long time. Mainly, the thing that's slowing me down the most is just the amount of data that needs to be brought over and the quality of the data. It's not in very good shape. It's not organized in a way that allows me to just bring over large pieces of data in bulk, and it requires a lot of cleanup. So that's what I've been working on a lot. In terms of the React stuff, I really only work on the React stuff whenever I stream, which is only an hour or so a day, and sometimes not every day. So it has been quite. Normally, it would not take nearly this long just to build a React site, and a pretty simple one at that. The data is what's really slowing me down. So I agree. This is a lot longer than normal. Albert says, "How long until you finish this project?" Well, it is supposed to launch on June 4th. That's our date for launch. I mean, potentially, if it didn't launch then, we have a little bit of room, but we should be launching around then. So after that, I'll probably still work on this and be constantly updating it. But I already have another project lined up that'll be my main focus after this launches. Michael, so earlier when I was explaining GraphQL and REST APIs and things, Michael Creel had mentioned REST would tell you every fruit you have all at once. Then you'd have to search for apples and oranges. Yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah, there would be potentially you would just get everything and have. Yeah, that is a good analogy. A good piece to the analogy. Steven says the GraphQL explanation is pretty good. Trying to decide if we want to dive into it for a job we have at work. Oh, okay, cool. I really like it. I'm definitely not as good at getting data yet, just in terms of like the how you format a query. I was just so used to REST APIs, in particular the WordPress REST API, that I could get data a lot more quickly without having to look up how. So I think once I work more with GraphQL, it'll be a lot easier for me to get data. Michael Creel says you should change the link text to "Would you like to know more?" Yeah, I don't know if I want that much text for the link. I don't want it to wrap onto a second line when it's on a small screen. So for a button, if it were in a different context and a different layout, I would be okay with that. But generally, I like to stick with smaller, 1 or 2 words for a button. John says, I actually can understand like a second language. What's happening today? All Jesse's fault. That's good. Michael Creel says, I know I'm OCD, but the ordering of your import statements makes my eye twitch. Yeah, my import statements are a mess. If anybody really wants to organize my import statements, feel free. If there's some plugin that does it automatically, let me know, because I'm pretty bad at that. I just throw them wherever when I'm working, because I don't want to get sidetracked and forget what I'm about to do. You know how you get it all in your mind, like this is what I need to do, and then if I try to like, okay, how am I going to organize these? I might forget where I'm at, so I try to not let myself get distracted by the order, so it ends up a mess. Albert says, I've been learning React and Redux for a year, and I still don't know how to make a website. Well, keep at it. I mean, um, you get to that point. I mean, it might be best. I would definitely make use of things like Create React App and Next, because basically you run those and you have a website. It already works. You have a progressive web app that already works as is. You just need to add your own styles and content and just kind of add on to it. So that's where I would start. If you're having trouble with it, definitely start there. If you haven't already, I would never do. I don't want to say never, but like there'd have to be a really really good reason for me not to use something to build out a React app, and then I just start from already built, setup, already configured Webpack, like all of that. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna try. I gotta end the stream here soon, so I'm gonna try to maybe skip some of the comments and just get to the questions. And I mean, if anybody's interested, you can go back and read the replay. Let's see. Okay, John Hansen said instead of limiting card size full screen, it might be better to have a containing div that sits in the middle, and then at media query width of that div will have auto margins on the left and right. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I think that's how I had it set up with the styles that I brought over. So um, I'm thinking though it may not be enough. So maybe I'll just have to increase the margins in that case. But I don't want to increase too much. It might be better to go to, let's say, 3 columns and have it display a little wider than to keep 2 columns but have it only take up just this tiny section of the screen. I think that may look a little weird. Steven said, I don't stream because I make more mistakes than you. You're the bomb. Thank you. I appreciate it, but I make a lot of mistakes sometimes. Like today maybe was like average amount of mistakes, but um, I don't know. I try. I mean, I ought to be getting good at streaming. I've been doing it for over a year now, so I would hope I'm at least okay at it by now. Johnny Carter says, "Thanks for answering. I like that you're smiling about messing with the Node package. That's exactly what I ended up doing. Yeah, I mean, normally like you don't want to get in there and mess with it, but I mean, what other? Sometimes that's your best option, you know. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I guess the other option would be like maybe adjust it to the way you want it, submit a pull request, and hope that it actually makes it into Material UI or whatever framework. Which I mean, that's valid too, but it's going to take longer and it's not guaranteed. So I mean, maybe doing both is the best way. All right. Neeraj says hi. Hey, how's it going? And Destroyer of Worlds says, what is your Visual Studio Code theme? It's the Seti theme, so Seti. Oh, Niki's got it. So Seti icons and Fira code font. There we go. FIRA code is the font. So that's why we got little things like, I'm trying to find an arrow function. I know I got one over here. Yeah, so that's why the arrow functions look like this. A little bit different, and then there's some other things that look different too. I don't really have a good example of it right now, but okay. Well, I gotta go. Gotta take my kids to soccer. So thank you all for watching. Really glad. Was really glad that I had your opinion on things and your help with some of these things. So I should be back tomorrow. I'll be streaming from the office tomorrow. Um, maybe the afternoon. Not sure yet. I'll let you all know on Twitter and Instagram when I'm gonna stream. And subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications, and you should get a notification as well. Um, anyway, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Until then, have a wonderful day.